Hello friends, this is the third lecture in programming in Python and the topic is identifiers, variables and literals. My name is Jitesh Kumar Bhatia and I am working as assistant professor in GLA University Mathura. So let's talk about what an identifier is. When we talk about an identifier is a name used to identify a variable, function, class, module or any other object. So anything that you are having in your program, it can be a variable, it can be a function, it can be a class, it can be a module, or it can be any other object. In order to just notify those things in your program, you actually use an identifier. So when we talk about an identifier is a name, and when you are asking for a name, you are going to follow certain rules, and what those rules are, that your identifier should start with a letter which can be an alphabet, which is in capital A to capital Z, or small alphabet, which is small a to small z, or it can start with an underscore. It can have zero or more letters, it can have more underscores, it can have digits. So in other words, I can say that an identifier is actually a combination of alphabets, digits, and underscore, but it cannot start with a digit, right? So an identifier name cannot contain any special symbol, as I have told in the previous case as well, that no special symbol other than underscore is used when we are naming an identifier, and even space is also not allowed in an identifier's name. So, what are the rules and naming conventions for identifier? When we say rules, rules means we have to follow all the rules, and when we say naming convention, it is advisable that we follow such kinds of conventions. And if we are following those conventions, it would be easier for everyone to understand our code. So the very first thing is that an identifier starts with the letter capital A to capital Z, or small a to small z, or an underscore, and then it can have any letter, any underscore, or any digit, right? uh, Also the convention says that you need to create a variable name, you need to create an identifier name that makes sense. For example, if a variable is actually storing a name, so it should be the variable which is name, right? So that any other person who is actually reading your code must identify that this is going to store the name of a person. Use camel case notation in which we actually write in small letter, and for every word that is in the identifier, the first character is always taken in the capital letter. So this is called camel case notation. So use camel case notation to declare a variable. It always start with a lowercase letter, but as soon as the word changes, the first alphabet of the word is actually uh, in capital letter. So it is easy to understand that thing. It is also a convention, like my name, like my age, my address. So all these are valid identifiers, right? Use capital letters where possible to declare a constant. So whenever you are having a constant, it is better that you use a combination of capital letters only, like pi, like g, like mass, like temp. You know that all these values are not going to change throughout your program. So these are actually constants, and we actually give only a single time value to them, and we are not going to change these values throughout the program. To differentiate between a changing value and a constant, we actually use capital letters for constant. This is also a convention. Never use any special symbol, as I have told you. Don't start with a digit, as I have told you. And identifier must not be a keyword as well. Keyword is what? Keyword is something that has a special meaning and has been predefined. Like we have for, we have if, we have in, we have true, we have false. All these are keywords in the Python programming language. So we cannot use them as identifier, right? And identifiers are case sensitive, means small a and capital A are treated as different identifiers in Python. Like I talked about keywords in Python, these are all a set of keywords in Python, like and, exec, not, except, elif, assert, finally, or, lambda, in, break, for, pass, yield, del, class, from, print, else, import, continue, global, raise, is, try, def, if, return, with, while. These are all keywords in Python. They all are reserved words, and they have a special meaning. They cannot be used as an identifier in Python, right? So identifiers name should be different other than keywords. Now let's talk about a question for practice. So you have to tell me that I will be telling you the identifier, and you have to tell me whether this identifier is valid or not, and if it is not valid, then you have to give a reason as well. So ABC. ABC is valid. Why it is valid? Because it is a combination of alphabet, digits, and underscore. Though there are no digits, no underscore, but it is not a keyword. It does not start with a digit, right? So it is a combination of alphabets. It does not. Sorry, it is not a keyword, and it does not start with a digit. So all three things are valid, making it a valid identifier. Then one ST. One ST is also is invalid. Invalid because it is starting with a digit. Starting with a digit is not considered as an identifier. Then a space b is also invalid because it has a space in between and spaces are not allowed. A comma b is also invalid because it has a special symbol other than underscore, which is comma, right? So it is also an invalid identifier. But a underscore b is a valid identifier because it is a combination of alphabets and underscore, and it is not a keyword, it is not starting with a digit, so it's like that. Then this is also valid because it is a combination of digits and underscore. It is not a keyword, it is not starting with a digit. So these are all examples, and mostly this type of question is asked which says that whether it is a valid identifier or an invalid identifier. When we talk about variable, so what is a variable? A variable is a named location used to store data in memory. So whatever value you are storing, that data is getting stored in a memory location, and for assessing that memory location we need a name for that, and that name is actually a variable. So each variable must have a unique name, and that unique name is given through an identifier only. A variable can be thought of as a container which holds data, which can be changed later throughout programming. Like in your program you can change the value of your variable. In Python, variable do not need declaration. We do not need any declaration kind of thing, right? We directly initialize a value, and as soon as we initialize the value, the variable gets declared automatically, right? It takes the memory, and the assignment operator is used to initialize a variable, and whatever value you are giving to a variable, the data type of the variable becomes that only. Like if you are writing x equal to 10, then x is having the value 10 and the data type is integer. If you are writing y equal to 15.6, then y is having the value 15.6 and it is a float variable. Similarly, z is equal to, within double quotes I'm writing, this is my string valued variable. So z is a variable which stores this value, and the data type of z is string. So if I'm printing the value of x, it is going to print 10. If I'm printing the value of y, it is going to print 15.6. And if I'm going to print z, then it will be printing the complete string, which is, this is my string valued variable, right? So the output would be somewhat like this, as you have understood. So nothing to be going to very much in depth. So when we talk about Python, it is actually a inferred language. Type inferred language, that, like as I told you, that whatever you value you are giving, that value is automatically taken by the variable, and the data type of the variable becomes the data type of the value that you have assigned, right? And we can assign the multiple values in a single line, like this. You can write a comma b comma c equal to 5 comma 3.2 comma hello. So the value 5 will be assigned to a, the value 3.2 will be assigned to b, and value hello will be assigned to c. So in a single line you can do like that. So if you are printing a b and c, the output would be 5, 3.2 and hello. And if you want to assign the same value to multiple variables, then you can write like this as well, like x equal to y equal to z equal to 25. So it is going to take from right to left. So 25 value will be assigned to z, so z is having the value 25. Then z value will be assigned to y, so y will be having again the value 25, and y value will be assigned to x, so x value is also going to be 25 only. So if you are printing the value of x, it will be printing the value 25. If you are printing the value y, then also it is going to print 25, and for z also it will be printing 25. When we say literals, literals are what? Literals are the values that you actually assign to a variable, right? This is actually a raw data. It is not a variable. It is a value which is a fixed value, right? We have numerical literals. Numerical literals means some value, like I'm saying 29. So 29 is going to be 29 only. Even if your program ends, even if it passes 25 years after that, whatever you are doing, 29 value is not going to change. A variable that is storing a value 29 can have a new value. Let us say it's going to change to 30, but 29 is fixed. 29 is not going to change. It means a literal value is a value which is immutable, right? So numeric literals belong to three different types. We have integer, float, and complex. So string literally is a sequence of characters surrounded by quotes, right? We can have single quotes, we can have double quotes, we can have triple quotes. And Boolean literal has two of the values which are true and false respectively, right? And true is equivalent to 1 and false is equivalent to 0. Or you can say that true is a non-zero value and false is a zero value. You can even give the binary value to a variable. Your binary value should start with 0b. You can give the decimal value, it can be given directly. You can give the octal value, it should start with 0o. You can give the hexadecimal value, it should start with 0x, and so on, right? For a float variable, it must have a point in between. Or we can have 1.5 e to the power 2, so it can like it can be like that as well. For a complex variable, we have to give the imaginary part, and the imaginary part must contain j. Like in mathematics, you were using I, here you are using j. So x equal to 3.14, j is exactly a complex variable. And if you are printing the values of a, b, c, and d, then the values would be like that 10 is the value of a, 100 is the value of b, and 200 is the value of c, and the value of d is 300. If you are calculating in decimal, then you will be getting in this manner only. And then if you are printing the value of float 1 and float 2, the float 1 value is 10.5 and the float 2 value is 1.5 into 10 to power 2, which is 150. And the third part, which is printing the value of x, would be 3.14j. You can print the only the imaginary part, which would be 3.14, and you can print the real part, and then it is 0.0 obviously. So this is all related to identifiers and literals and variables. Thank you. Thanks